Shin was a weak and pathetic nerd with no riz and no aura. But that was until an alien parasite attacked his body and replaced his hand. Though he wanted to get rid of the alien at first, he gradually accepts it as a partner and decides to fight against other man-eating parasites, becoming an absolute chick magnet in the process. The story starts as Shin wakes up from his sleep, hearing a faint voice that tells him that it was unfortunate that he failed. Shin panics on hearing this, but thinks that it was just a terrible dream that he had last night. He shakes off those thoughts and goes down to have breakfast, where his parents ask him if he is feeling fine because he was acting crazy last night. The pathetic nerd doesn't even remember the last night clearly and decides to skip breakfast to go school. On the way, his crush Murano suddenly attacks him from behind, but his right hand blocks the attack reflexively. Murano is surprised that he has such good reflexes, but Shin tells her that his hand just moved on its own. The very next moment, he starts getting freaky with Murano, who gets flustered and slaps him before running away. And their mutual friend Takai tells Shin that this is what zero biz does to a person. Anyway, once they reach school, Mick falls asleep because he couldn't get much sleep last night as an alien parasite attacked him. It tried to enter his brain through his ear, but that was blocked by his earphones, and when the parasite tried to enter his brain through his nose, Shin sneezed and woke up. He saw a brief glimpse of the alien and thought that it was a snake, but then it suddenly jumped at him and started burrowing into his right hand. Luckily, Shin still used his earphone cord to tie his arm tightly and prevented the parasite from going beyond it. And that is one of the reasons why wired earphones are still goated. His parents came rushing to check on him, and his dad immediately told him to change his dealer because he must be high on some bad stuff to hallucinate snakes penetrating his body. Shin suddenly wakes up from the dream of last night's incidents and finds a teacher in front of him. Angry that he is using his smartphone during class, Shin tries telling him that he didn't do anything, but obviously, the proof says otherwise. Later, Murano is still mad at him and Takai decides to become the mediator because she is worried about Shin's mental health. He decides to go home early and wonders if something is really wrong with his right hand, or if he is imagining things. On the way, he sees a girl carelessly crossing the street and a car coming straight towards her. He takes action instinctively, protecting the girl while stopping the car with his right hand. Shin can't believe what he just did, but as he looks at his right hand, he finds that it has changed shape and an eye has appeared in the center. It quickly returns to normal, but that is enough to freak him out, and he runs home. He has a panic attack in his room and tries to stab his right hand, which suddenly transforms into an alien creature that can talk in broken phrases, which is still better English than what the gift card scammers speak. It says that it failed to take over the body and only became the right hand after eating it. And Shin starts thinking that he is schizo. He suddenly attacks the alien controlling his arm, but it easily breaks the knife and sends it flying. The creature then asks Shin to teach him how to talk because he is not good at it yet. But then it suddenly falls asleep and his hand turns normal. Shin is bamboozled by it and he searches the net for any clues but doesn't find anything. And in the end, he decides to pretend to be normal. However, he is unaware that the aliens have already spread throughout the world, replacing humans and eating them. The next morning, Shin wakes up and finds the alien calmly reading books to gather information about the world. It can now talk clearly, showing signs of hyper-intelligence, and it can also transform into other creatures. Shin starts warming up a little to the parasite and asks if it is an alien. But the creature says it doesn't know where it came from. It only remembers things from after it awakened inside his arm. And the first thing he ever felt was dissatisfaction that he failed to take over his brain. That sends Shin into a panic. But the alien quickly explains that it can't do anything anymore since it has already eaten his arm and replaced it. If it had taken over his head instead, then things would be different, and he would be in charge of his body. Shin says that he is immediately going to the hospital to have his freak of a right hand cut off. But the alien says that would be a terrible idea because it feeds on Shin's nutrients, and if it gets cut off, it will die. Shin would also lose his right hand that has a mouth and can also shape shift, which is basically the greatest blessing a gooner like him can ask for. Shin calls it a parasite, but the creature says they should just cooperate with each other, just as it says that the parasite immediately gets tired and falls asleep, turning MC's hand back to normal. Later, Shin goes for breakfast and hears his dad reading the newspaper, talking about a string of brutal and violent murders dubbed mincemeat murders that have been happening lately. He heads to school after that, but decides that he should probably turn himself in to the police and tell them everything about his alien hand. However, the parasite tells him that it is not a good idea because they will be turned into lab rats for some cray-cray scientists. Suddenly, it warns him that one of them is nearby, explaining that parasites can sense each other's brainwaves. Shin decides to follow the direction of the new parasite, but he quickly gets scared because it might have taken over a human, and he doesn't know what to expect. His parasite, however, keeps dragging him forward, and they eventually find a dog eating the dead body of another dog. Shin wonders what is going on, but as he sees that the dog has been taken over by a parasite, he freaks out. The dog parasite looks at his right hand and says that it failed too. And then suddenly, the alien notices its killing intent. It drags Shin away to a safe place because they need to calm down before fighting. Meanwhile, the parasite dog transforms, sprouting wings, and takes to the sky. It soon locates them hiding in a park, but Shin's alien says they'll fight it here. It suddenly launches an attack at the flying dog with steel-edged tentacles, and cuts through its heart with one precise strike, killing it instantly. Shin can't believe what just happened because it was all so fast. But the alien carefully watches as the dead dog parasite shrivels up and dies. He coldly states that it lost because it didn't study enough. And Shin realizes that this thing he has partnered with has no empathy at all, and it is like an emotionless insect. In another part of town, a woman is being harassed by a group of thugs when a man suddenly appears and knocks them all down without breaking a sweat. He then walks the woman home, acting like a stoic guardian, but the thugs suddenly return to attack him again. They hit his head with a bat, but the man doesn't even flinch. Instead, he casually says that his stomach can't handle 4 people at once. No one gets what he means, but then, without warning, the skin on his face peels off like orange peels in a fruit-based face wash ad, and he slices all of them up with his razor-edged tentacles. The parasite then changes his appearance to not get caught and goes on his way. Meanwhile, Shin decides to keep the alien and not report to the authorities, because after the run-in with the dog today, he knows he would be in danger without it. He feels weird calling it the alien all the time, so he tries to give it a name. The creature asks him to call it Migi, since that means right in Japanese, although it admits that it doesn't really care about names since it is neither a person nor a pet. Later, thanks to Migi's help, Shin starts becoming really good at sports, which makes Murano simp after him. This also makes the class bully jealous because he likes Murano too. After the game ends, Takai brings Murano over to talk to Shin so that they can move over the past incident. Shin finally gets the chance to apologize to her, and she forgives him, but only if he agrees to take her out for dessert next Sunday. She's as glad to hear that. But then Murano notices that something about him feels different. However, after she leaves, Migi remarks that Shin's heart rate was abnormal when he was talking to the girl, and he definitely has the hots for her. Just then, the class bully calls out Shin and angrily confronts him for getting all of Murano's attention. Shin tries to avoid the fight, saying that he can't do anything about it, but the guy attacks him without warning. Shin gets scared that Migi might get triggered and unalive this unlucky bastard, but luckily, he holds back and simply uses a Gamu Gamu no pistol to knock the bully down, and that is enough to scare him away. Later, Takai starts talking about the brutal mincemeat murders, the same one Shin's dad was reading about. No one knows who's behind them, but similar cases are showing up all over the world, which Takai finds too suspicious. However, Shin suddenly realizes that the ones behind all the murders must be the parasite aliens. Once they reach home, Shin searches more about the murders and asks Migi, who agrees that it is definitely the work of his species. He explains that they saw a parasite possessing a dog eat another dog, which indicates that they can only eat the same species as their host. He says that since they are cannibals, it is only natural that they eat humans when they use them as hosts. Shin panics on hearing this and wonders if he should inform the world and try to save humanity. But Migi doesn't get why he is even bothering with that. According to Migi, his kind just eat to survive, and that is just how nature works. Shin says that human life is valuable, but Migi argues that the only life he values is his own and Shin's, because he needs him. Shin calls Migi an insect and a parasite, but Migi warns him that if he goes against him, he'll chop off his tongue so that he can't tell anyone anything. Terrified of the parasite, Shin gives up the idea. Migi continues debating and points out that humans eat all kinds of animals, while his kind only eat a few, so in his view, humans might actually be worse. The next day, another alien spots Shin and Migi. Migi senses it immediately too and warns Shin. They can't find the alien in the crowded market. So Migi suggests going somewhere quiet, and Shin agrees. He says he wants to meet the other alien, but Migi thinks that is insane. He asks why he isn't afraid, since he could die even though he was crapping his pants out of fear yesterday. Shin replies that he wants to learn more about the parasites in order to protect humans from them. Soon, the other guy shows up. He looks at Shin's right hand and immediately thinks that it is dangerous because Shin's human brain is still intact. He calmly walks ahead while Migi threatens to kill him if he tries anything. The man makes an offer and asks Migi to migrate to him, saying that there is still time for him to change his host. To prove his point, he transforms his body, cuts off his own hand, and tells Migi to come to him as they will be stronger together. Shin panics, thinking Migi might switch sides, but he stays put. The other parasite gets impatient and attacks, but Migi reacts instantly and takes him down. The other alien is shocked and can't believe he lost, and Shin thanks Migi for saving his life. However, he replies that he wasn't even sure if switching bodies was possible, so this was the safer option. The next day, Shin and Murano go on their dessert date, and during the conversation, Murano says her parents are scared because of the mincemeat murders. Shin quietly wonders how she would react if he ever told her about Migi. They walk through a park after that and find a group of boys burying a cat in the sand and throwing stones at it for fun. Murano is hurt by the sight and says she can't stand watching it. She wants to leave, but Shin shows that he has a heart of gold like Superman. He walks ahead and rescues the cat, telling the boys to stop hurting innocent creatures. The boys call him a boomer for interrupting their fun and throw stones at him as he turns back, but Migi catches all of them. Shin then gives the boys an intense stare, which scares them off completely, and they run away. Well, that was more than enough to impress Murano, who grabs Shin's hand, but her instincts tell her that something is wrong, so she switches from his right hand to his left. A few days pass, and the number of mincemeat murder cases keeps increasing. Shin is disgusted by the news, and Murano begins to notice that he is growing even more distant and different each day. One day, while walking to school, Migi suddenly senses another parasite nearby. Shin grows alert on hearing this, but when Migi points towards the school building, he starts panicking like never before. At school, Shin anxiously scans the halls to find the parasite, and Migi warns him not to act suspicious because if the parasite is nearby, it might sense them too. Just then, a new teacher is introduced to the class as Miss Tamiya, and the moment she steps on the stage, Migi confirms that she is the parasite. What is even worse, she is assigned to be Murano's homeroom teacher. Shin grows uneasy on hearing this, and Migi again warns him not to look at Tamiya, but he can't help it, and the woman notices him, realizing that he is one of them too. Later, during the sports class, Migi comments on how smart Tamiya must be, because she has managed to maintain her host's identity and position in society, and she is also working as a teacher. Shin wonders if she plans to eventually eat everyone at school, but Migi says that she won't like to blow her cover, so she won't feed on people near her. In class, while Tamiya is teaching, Migi falls asleep, and Shin panics because he thinks he is in danger. He fumbles his way through the rest of the period, and after the class, Tamiya asks him to come to the office later. The other boys tease him, joking that he is getting attention from the mommy teacher, and Shin lashes out at them, because they don't know how deep in trouble he is. Anyway, he heads to the office, and luckily, Migi wakes up on time. Once they get inside, Tamiya gets straight to the point. She calmly assures Shin she has no desire to fight him. Instead, she invites him to meet after school for a more proper conversation. Migi immediately agrees, but Shin is suspicious, fearing it is a trap. Tamiya says that if she wanted to kill him, she would have done it already, and reveals that she just is curious about their unusual hybrid bond. She promises to exchange information with them and possibly even cooperate in the future. After school, Shin goes to meet her, but Migi suddenly detects two parasites approaching. Shin panics again, but Migi can't tell if it is a trap yet. Soon, Tamiya arrives there with a man she calls Mr. A because he has no name and no personality. Instantly, tension rises between him and Migi, but Tamiya defuses